Thank you for joining us yet again on our news desk on QTV. Here are the headlines. President Edgar Lungu has dropped Zambia Army Commander Paul Mihova and has appointed William Sikazwe as the new Army Commander. A total of 116,616 candidates who sat for the 2018 Grade 9 examinations have made it to Grade 10. Government has formally acknowledged that the continued global trade tension poses a risk to Zambia's 2019 growth prospects. Here now is the news in detail. President Edgar Lungu has dropped Zambia Army Commander Lieutenant General Paul Mihova and appointed Brigadier General William Sikazwe as the new Army Commander. Until his appointment, General Sikazwe, who has now been elevated to the rank of Lieutenant General, served as Chief of Operations. ZNBC reports that speaking during the ceremony at State House, President Lungu urged General Sikazwe to defend the Constitution and the people of Zambia. President Lungu also told the new Army Commander to remind his officers on the need to respect the hierarchy of power. He says the Zambia Army is well respected in Africa and expects that to continue even as the new Army Commander takes over. The head of state has also asked General Sikazwe to work with the outgoing Zambia Army Commander on various projects as he hands over. And General Sikazwe said he will ensure that the President's pronouncements are implemented. A total of 116,616 candidates who sat for the 2018 Grade 9 examinations have made it to Grade 10. This represents 45.64% of candidates that wrote the exams. Announcing the results at a media briefing in Osaka, Acting Minister of General Education Elizabeth Phiri disclosed that a total of 225,449 sat for the exams. Mrs. Phiri says the 45.65% pass rate for the 2018 candidates represents a 9.54 increase in percentage points from 2017. She states that indicated that all the 116,606 candidates who obtained full certificates have been selected to Grade 10, of which 52.27% are boys and 54.06% are girls. Ms. Phiri further says the highest performance was recorded in design and technology, while the lowest performance was recorded in business studies, religious education and mathematics. The Acting Minister of General Education notes that a total of 29,074 candidates representing a 10.22% national absenteeism rate were absent from the examination of 13,932. She says this represents 9.83% were boys and 15,142, representing 10.60% were girls.
A total of 116,616 candidates obtained certificates, representing 45.65% of total candidates that sat the examination. This represents a decrease of 9.54 percentage points from 2017. Further, analysis of the results shows the following. In absolute figures, more boys, 58,974 or 46.16% obtained certificates than girls, 57,642 or 45.15% more girls, 16,009 or 49.35% obtained statements than boys, 61,439 or 48.08%.
Meanwhile, Ms. Phiri says results of 78 candidates who sat for the exams have been withheld for suspicion of examination malpractices. She has told journalists that investigations have been instituted in them, further warning offenders of exam malpractice of stiff punishment.
During the conduct and marking of the answer scripts, some candidates wanted to benefit illegally from the examination. However, vigilant invigilators and markers were able to identify those candidates. In this respect, A total of 78 cases of suspected examination malpractice involving individual candidates and whose examination centers were reported. The cases were in form of smuggled unauthorized materials into the examination room, assistance, prior knowledge, impersonation, collusion, and copying. The results of the candidates involved have since been withheld. The public should take note that examination malpractice, no matter what extent or form, remain punishable by law. Therefore, I would like to specifically warn all possible offenders that they will be dealt with accordingly. Ladies and gentlemen, I also wish to inform the nation that the selection of the 2019 Grade 10 learners was successfully completed on 29th December 2018. Just like the Grade 7 results were a Christmas gift to the nation, the Grade 9 results are a New Year's gift.
And Examinations Council of Zambia ECZ Director Michael Chilala has reiterated the Council's commitment to ensuring that results are released on time. Dr. Chilala has also disclosed that the examination system will undergo major reforms starting in 2019 to ensure continued integrity of the system.
We wish to express appreciation to the Ministry, to the Government of the Republic of Zambia, and to the general public in Zambia who managed to work together with us to bring this situation to normalcy once we had experienced a challenge. I also wish, in your presence, Honorable Minister, to express my gratitude to our staff within the Ministry and the Examinations Council of Zambia for working tirelessly day and night, sometimes 2-3 nights without resting, to ensure that we caught up with time and then are able to release the results today. The performance of learners, Honorable Minister, is similar to other years, except for this time around we had a situation where the learners had to have a break and then continue with the examination. We are yet to have serious assessment of the situation so that we can know what effects that may have had on the learners. These are psychological matters where the learners were ready to sit, and then eventually, because of the leakage, we had to change the examination for the first time. So we will review our situation as we go forward to ensure that the lessons learned, borrowing again from Director Standards, who says this is a situation of higher learning, should be able to help us be able to prevent such happenings in future examinations. However, we are presenting the results today, and we are hoping that this New Year's gift will be able to guide the parents so that they can avoid overspending over the festive season.
The candidates who have made it to Grade 10 are expected to report in their respective schools on the 14th of January 2019. The church mother bodies spearheading the dialogue process have been cautioned against creating an agenda for political parties taking part in the process. Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue ZCID trustee Katile Kalumba has reminded the church mother bodies to be wary that they are there to aspire for political power to enter State House. Dr. Kalumba says the Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia EFZ, the Council of Churches in Zambia CCZ, and the Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops ZCCB must therefore be a fair arbiter in the dialogue process. In an interview with QTV News, Dr. Kalumba has advised the EFZ and CCZ and ZCCB to let the agenda political parties agreed upon in Siavonga be the agenda for the anticipated national dialogue. Dr. Kalumba, who is also Sub-Chief Natende of Chienge District, is advising the three church mother bodies to be mindful as they lead the dialogue process that are dealing with a team of political rivals. He says this also entails that if the three church mother bodies create their own agenda, they will make it possible for this team of political rivals failed to reason together and have a consensus. Dr. Kalumba, who has held various positions in the Frederick Chiluba-led MMD government, says this is why it is important for EFZ, CCZ and the ZCCB to avoid introducing any new agenda items. He has encouraged the three church mother bodies to instead give political parties a chance and guard against embroiling themselves into what he has referred to as a political matter.
My worry is that the three church mother bodies have come up with a strange agenda, or rather a strange approach, an approach that does not conform with political matter. The agenda of what the political parties wanted to discuss was already made up in Siabonga, including the roadmap. What they wanted is for their party presidents to approve or to disagree over that roadmap or political matter. Now, the church was considered a neutral arbiter who would help them wander through or walk through those issues without, or rather with civility. But I've come to understand that the church has its own vested interests. It wants to have its own agenda. Now, I don't understand that. I really don't understand how the church could have its own interests in political matter. What I would expect the church to do, perhaps having the aspect of social justice as part of their considerations of what they do, is to sit down with the secretary generals of the party and say, okay, in your agenda, in what you have agreed, we also want you to discuss this matter.
Government has formally acknowledged that the continued global trade tension poses a risk to Zambia's 2019 growth prospects. Minister of Finance Margaret Manakatwe has cited projects rise in crude oil prices due to continued geopolitical tensions and climate change related effects as other downside risks to growth prospects. Mrs. Manakatwe has admitted that maintaining the fiscal deficit, weak credit growth and any failure to address domestic areas are equally a constraint to growth. In a statement to Q News on the performance of the economy in 2018 and outlook for 2019, Mrs. Manakatwe says this is besides delaying implementation of reforms that will support growth. Mrs. Manakatwe states that in 2019, macroeconomic stability is however projected to be sustained. She says this will be aided by continued implementation of reforms and policies to support delivery of fiscal consolidation for sustainable and inclusive growth. Mrs. Manakatwe notes that the inflation is projected to remain with a medium-term range of 6 to 8%. She says growth of at least 4% is projected to be driven by both public and private sector investments and enhanced domestic revenues collection. Mrs. Manakatwe states that government thus stands on firm grounds in its belief that Zambia's prospects are bright. She says it is on the other hand important that all stakeholders commit the legal reforms and measures outlined in the Economic Stabilization and Growth Program. Zambia Air Force has announced plans to establish a dedicated air ambulance to be stationed specifically to respond to emergencies across the country in the first quarter of 2019. ZAF Commander David Muma says the establishment of an air ambulance is in line with government's quest to enhance service delivery in the health sector. General Muma says the Air Force has observed that many deaths that have occurred on the country's highways could be avoided if there is an efficient response system. Speaking in Lusaka when he received an ambulance donated by the Ministry of Health, General Muma said to this effect, headways have been made to ensure an air ambulance to start to operate. Our staffer Martha Katambi has more in this report.
Quick response to emergencies is very critical in saving lives. And the Zambian government has continued to show commitment towards attaining universal health coverage for all. This has been seen through improvement of healthcare services, such as through the construction of hospitals, among others. To this effect, Ministry of Health was today donating an ambulance to the Zambia Air Force headquarters in Lusaka. During their handover, Health Minister Dr. Chitalu Chilufya has called for reinforced partnership between the Zambia Air Force and the Ministry of Health in the year 2019.
We also have noted the great support that you have given to the Ministry of Health in terms of air travel. We will be more efficient. We will travel to newer parts than we should have because of the efficient support and very safe air support that you give them. And your crew have been marvelous. We have to thank you more sincerely because with that support, we've been able to reach out to many Zambians, provide services that we have been constrained to provide, and we have been able to ensure that every part of this country is reached. So we look forward to giving a stronger collaboration. Thirdly, we also note that most of our training facilities that exist today, like maybe the Investigation Hospital, I believe Mama Salah, have staff that have background from the Air Force or from the military in general, and they've participated not only in service delivery as they train, but they've also been resource staff.
Speaking at the same donation, Zambia Air Force Commander David Muma has thanked government for its commitment towards healthcare in the defense forces.
We would love to grow our cooperation beyond what the level it is right now. And it is with this in mind that as Zambia Air Force we wish to collaborate in the establishment of an air ambulance unit between ourselves and yourselves, details of which maybe the technical teams can work out. But in principle, what we are suggesting is that we can provide a dedicated helicopter. Maybe we can start with one and then grow it slowly, which is pure an ambulance and can be stationed at UTH or Levy, where we construct a helipad and it's permanently there, available to respond to any emergencies. As you know, a helicopter or an air asset has many advantages. The biggest being very quick reach to any destination.
It is hoped that this ambulance will help in quickly responding to emergencies to the Zambia Air Force. Martha Katambi, reporting for QTV News in Lusaka.
The Non-Governmental Gender Organizations Coordinating Council, NGOCC, has called on government to consider regulating the social cash transfer program. NGOCC Board Chairperson Mary Mulenga is advising government to institute mechanisms that will ensure that money meant for the vulnerable is used for the intended purpose. Mrs. Mulenga has implored government to undertake a more holistic mapping to identify the real women and men that need this support. Speaking at the end of the Year Reflections Media Breakfast, Mrs. Mulenga has advised government to devise further mechanisms to implement conditional cash transfer program for sustainability. Ms. Mulenga says regulating the social cash transfer will help address the ineffective and flawed targeting mechanisms in identifying beneficiaries under the scheme. She has also proposed that government should appoint Gender Equity and Equality Commission that will help address issues of gender in the country. Ms. Mulenga is of the view that a gender commission can go a long way in narrowing the gender gaps both in public and private sectors.
The year 2018
was characterized by increased reports of alleged corruption in the public service. Corruption, as has already been said, is a cancer that takes away resources from the public by a few selfish individuals to the detriment of sustainable national development. The impact of corruption is that it deprives majority of our citizens who should have benefited from these resources. It is unfortunate that the Anti-Corruption Commission, ACC, has seemingly not been able to effectively deal with the reported cases of corruption activities in government institutions. This is despite the various revelations in the Auditor General's report that point to gross misappropriation of public resources. While some positive strides have been noted, like the suspension of officials at the Ministry of Education, we need more punitive actions to deter other public service workers from abusing or stealing public resources through corruption. Going forward, we expect the Anti-Corruption Commission to be more proactive and decisive in investigating all reported cases of corruption without fear or favor. The fourth reflection is on social cash transfer. As an organization that deals with the vulnerable women and children, we noted the unfortunate reported misapplication and misappropriation of the social cash transfer funds in 2018 that even led to some donors withholding aid. NGOCC also noted the ineffective and flawed targeting mechanism in identifying beneficiaries under the scheme.
And speaking at the same event, NGOCC Executive Director Engwase Mwale has called on government to expedite its investigations into the death of UNZA student Vespas Sumujila.
But what we did, we went ahead, we met with the late Vespas family, the mother and father, where they needed help as to how they could seek legal redress. So what NGOCC has done through one of our members, the National Legal Aid Clinic for Women, is one of our 98 member organizations. We did connect the late Vespas parents, to seek the services of the National Legal Aid Clinic for Women, and they are currently preparing documentation and doing their own investigation on how the family can actually be assisted to seek legal redress. But on top of that, we are also, through various platforms, we are also continuously calling upon the government to ensure that investigations are expedited and that the public would actually be informed of what transpired. So that is how far we have gone, and we're hoping that through the National Legal Aid Clinic, we should be able to help the family do that. But also we intend to meet some of the government officials through the relevant ministries to see how quickly they can be able to provide that needed redress and healing on the part of the family.
The Foundation for Democratic Process, FODEP, says there is nothing strange about the move taken by opposition political parties to form an alliance. FODEP Executive Director Mwengechi Mfwembe says opposition political parties have a democratic right to form an alliance. Mr. Chimfwembe says his organization is, however, of the view that such political groupings should not be about removing the ruling Patriotic Front from power alone. He states that the coming together of opposition political parties should be a platform to offer solutions to government on the issues affecting the Zambian people. Mr. Chimfwembe has reminded political leaders whose parties have entered into an alliance that Zambians want a leader who will resolve challenges they are grappling with.
Many other times we have seen alliances being formed only to break up because the vision was weak. So it's important that as political parties propel their manifestos or indeed their vision, it shouldn't just be about getting power from one camp to the other, because that can easily be done anyhow. But what is much more important is the vision, because regardless of which party gets to State House, I think to the people of Zambia, What they desire is a government that can bring about meaningful change to an ordinary person. And that should be in the forefront of all the political players, including the government that is there. It should from time to time evaluate whether it is actually keeping the word. For instance, France is one nation right now where citizens are putting their leadership to account on some of the manifestos that they were promised. And in a functioning democracy, we feel that there is nothing wrong in an environment where even political players come together and say, we want to demand accountability on the deliverables, you know, that were promised, the manifestos that were dispensed. We feel that that is actually a healthy indicator of a democracy and should be promoted.
The Federation of Free Trade Unions of Zambia, FFTUZ, has added its voice in advising mining firms in the country to stop blackmailing government. FFTUZ President Chingaiti Msishka says his union agrees with others who are urging mining firms to instead to comply with the law of the country. Mr. Mshika says the FFTUZ is urging mining companies to particularly comply with the recently announced changes to the mining tax regime. He says his union is concerned that some mines have continued to issue threats of laying off workers in view of the new tax changes. Mr. Mshike has wondered why mining companies are in the habit of blackmailing government whenever they are told to pay taxes. He says mining companies should learn to dialogue with the government. 3 people have been arrested by police in Mpika for allegedly stealing 28 by 50 kg bags of decompound fertilizer belonging to Mpika Neria Investment Depot, valued at 8,960 kwacha. Muchinga Province Police Commissioner Joe Njase has confirmed the development to the Zanis in Mpika. Mr. Njase says the theft happened on the 29th of December 2018, last week, between 10 hours and 12 hours at Mpika Neria Investment Depot. He says the matter was reported to the police on the very day by Sydney Mwendila, 38, who is also the regional manager for Mchinga and Northern Province Neria Investment. The Mchinga Police Commissioner has disclosed that people alleged to have stolen the fertilizer include Noah Ngoma, Emmanuel Zimba and Melvin Hamamba. 20 people have escaped from a prison cell after breaking through an air vent in Chinzombo in Mambwe town of Eastern Province. Among the escapees were 12 convicts, while 8 were awaiting judgment due this week. The incident happened on December 29th, around 18 hours after the suspects were locked up in the cells. Zanis reports that Eastern Province Police Commissioner Lakson Sakala, when contacted, confirmed the development. Mr. Sakala states that the escapees managed their feet through the air vent on the correctional cell they occupied, leaving only 4 of the occupants. He narrates that it was only after alert officers from Chinzombo noticed that the cell was broken into on Sunday, the 30th of December, that it was realized that the 20 inmates had escaped. The Eastern Province Police Chief says a manhunt for the escapees has since been launched. He has also appealed to the members of the public to report suspicious people or events in their allocations. Environmental activist Morgan Katati has advised the Lusaka City Council LCC to consider passing a bylaw that will compel every household in the city to plant at least 2 trees. Mr. Katati says this is in an effort to reduce emissions, which have been placed at 75% for Zambia alone by the greenhouse gas report in the second national communication. He says of each household planted a tree in a population of about 3 million people, Lusaka will have about 6 million trees, which entail a reduction in gas emissions. Mr. Katati, who is also Zambia Institute of Environmental Management, ZM Executive Director, says the country could be worried with the 75% placement of emissions.
So one of the products, in my view, of that is Lusaka City Council can pass a bylaw to say every house should plant 2 trees in 2019. So you can imagine we are over 3 million. So we are talking about 6 million plus trees that will be planted in 2019, and if it is nurtured properly, then we will have more. We are adding back to the ecology, and we are adding back to the climate. We are adding back to the carbon sinks. And by the way, when you look at the report, the greenhouse gas report for Zambia in the second national communication, it shows that 75% of emissions for Zambia came from land use change. Land use change is basically changing the use of land, because the original use of land is to be a forest. So when you erase forest, you remove and put a structure, you have changed the use. And therefore, so
Mukaika Member of Parliament Peter Piri has expressed concern at the deplorable state of the Zambia-Mozambique road, which ran through Chanida border. Mr. Piri thinks that something can be done to ease movements of vehicles on the road while road users wait for government to consider the road for a major facelift. He says he is hopeful that major trucks on the road will commence as soon as possible. Mr. Piri has disclosed that he has already appealed to the Road Development Agency, RDA, to work on the road. He has, however, appealed to the business community in Katete district to come on board and help in conducting works on the 50-kilometer road. Mr. Piri, together with his Milanzi counterpart Whiteson Banda on Monday, led a team of council officials and inmates from Katete District Correctional Facility in patching up certain sections of the road. And Katete District Council Public Relations Officer Clarence Kauma expressed gratitude to the two parliamentarians for responding to the council's quest for the road to be worked on. Mr. Kauma says the poor state of the road is of concern to the district council as it affects revenue collection for the local authority.
Yeah, what I would urge the residents is for them to come on board. You see, Boma is us people. Out there, you are Boma yourselves. So we need to do something. We need to contribute something to our development of our district. You know, it is us, the people of Katete, who develop this district. No one else will come from anywhere, somewhere, to come and develop this. It is us, the people of Katete, who develop this district. So I urge the business community, the people out there, to be hard-working and able to give out. You know?
This road leaves Zambia to Mozambique via Chanida border. And this is a stretch of about 50 kilometers. Apparently the road is quite in a deplorable state, and to this effect the two area member of parliament came on board. This road is of economic value. This road is of great use, therefore imports and exports of goods and services between the countries, that is Mozambique and Zambia. And as such we are very happy as a local authority, because we have been crying and asking the general public, the businessmen and women to come on board to see to it that they help us.
That item concludes our news, but before I take a run, here's a recap of stories in the headlines. President Edgar Lungu has dropped Zambia Army Commander Paul Mihova and has appointed William Sikazwe as the new Army Commander. A total of 116,616 candidates who sat for the 2018 Grade 9 examinations have made it to Grade 10. Government has formally acknowledged that the continued global tension trade poses a risk to Zambia's 2019 growth prospects. And that will do it for the news. Thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye. God bless and Happy New Year.